Hedge, you know. I gather you heard them coming? There is a particular trait all predators tend to use,
Thrawn said, walking over to him.
A balance between silence and speed. Humans use a version of this trait. Ah!
Eli had already known that Chiss eyes were a bit better than those of humans, their visible spectrum edging a bit into the infrared. Apparently their ears were better too.
Thanks for getting me out of the way. I've had just enough training to know I'm not very good at this.
You are welcome. Thrawn looked at the approaching cadets who had slowed to a jog now that the attackers were gone.
And now, I believe,
he added,
it is finally time for us to see Commandant Dienlark.
Chapter 6.
A leader is responsible for those under his authority. That is the first rule of command. He is responsible for their safety, their provisions, their knowledge, and ultimately, their lives. Those whom he commands are in turn responsible for their behavior and their dedication to duty. Any who violates his trust must be disciplined for the good of the others. But such discipline is not always easy or straightforward. There are many factors, some of them beyond the commander's control. Sometimes those complications involve personal relationships. Other times, it is the circumstances themselves that are difficult. There can also be politics and outside intervention. Failure to act always brings consequences. But sometimes, those consequences can be turned to one's advantage.
All right, Commandant Dienlark said, as he made a final notation on his datapad.
The skin around his eyes is puffy. Perhaps he is newly awakened. His facial heat is bright, and the muscles in his throat are tight. There is a thin coating of perspiration on his face. Perhaps he is nervous.
Cadets Orbar and Turoy set up the assault, you say? Did you actually hear them calling in the men who attacked you?
No, sir, we didn't, Vanto said. But their comlink records, or the lab's own comm system, should give you the necessary indicators.
Yes, they should,
Dienlark agreed.
His voice goes deeper in tone. Reluctance?
Unless the assailants were an entirely separate bunch.
They were not,
Thrawn said.
How do you know?
Dienlark asked.
His eyes narrow. They came across the southwest corner of the parade ground, Thrawn said. At that time they were already moving with speed and stealth. But the only way for them to have independently identified us was with electrobinoculars. Which none of them had,
Vanto said.
He nods, a gesture of understanding. That also rules out an attack driven by jealousy or xenophobia, since they couldn't have known it was Cadet Thrawn. So it was Orbar or Turoy, or the instructor, he added. His tone rises slightly with thoughtfulness.
No,
Dienlark said.
It wasn't him.
It could have been,
Thrawn said.
I said it wasn't,
Dienlark repeated.
His tone has gone deeper, his face stiff, his eyes gazing with heightened intent. Perhaps he does not wish it to be possible.
Bad enough that cadets were mixed up in something like this. We're not going to drag an instructor in too.
He looks back at his datapad. His facial heat increases as he makes a final note. Sir, with all due respect, I don't think politics should enter into this,
Vanto said.
His tone is respectful but firm.
No, you don't, do you?
Dienlark said.
His voice becomes harsh.
Are you ready to have your name put on a witness list?
I could handle it, sir.
I doubt that, Cadet,
Dienlark said.
Orbar's family has a lot to say about what happens on Coruscant. Even if they let you graduate, you'd probably find yourself assigned to some wild space listening post.
Is not such manipulation of the justice system in itself illegal?
It's a new lap record!
Of course it is,
Dienlark said.
His lips compress, his facial glow fading slowly.
All right. Assuming you're a